Hello and welcome to this video. This is energetic alchemy practice number 2. For anybody who has been keeping up with my energy system series, this is the inner core workings that I'm going to walk through quickly here. This is sort of the takeaway, homework assignment, kind of practical use. Hygienic routine that focuses on the inner core. Got the sun really coming through, sorry. I hope it's not too distracting in the video. I did do video 1 already, so if you haven't seen the Torito flow, definitely check that video out afterwards. It's very helpful. I do suggest doing and starting that practice first if this is all very new to you. If you've done some shadow and light work, and if this is kind of something that you really already have a little bit of a wrangle on with the reins, then feel free to jump into the core work first. You need to alternate between the two anyways, so it really isn't so important that you do Torito work first. I don't want to spend too much time as a recap, but just in case anybody is brand new here and you've just hopped into this, out of nowhere. The inner core is what we're going to focus on this, and I'm going to give a quick, rushed version of the meditation. I'm going to be uploading a full-length, really guided, step-by-step working, just like I did for the Taurus flow, for this magnetic inner core. And that will be up in the next couple of days. So if you're looking for more and you liked that other meditation I did, and you really want a good walkthrough for core work, then that will be up, and I will put a link in the comments as soon as it goes up. So definitely check back this coming week, this last week of July, if you're finding this in real time. It'll be up shortly. So the inner core is a representation of the divine feminine. And in that, it is a negatively oriented system. It doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that its purpose is focused on the self, an individual construct that is separate from all others. And when we talk about our inner workings, our physical body vessel, our organ systems, our cells, all of those things that happen within us, it's quite obvious that all those workers in there are working for the boss of you. They're service of yourself, right? They are self-serving. And it's not negative, because it's not harmful to anybody else. It's for the greater good. It's for the God in you that they are serving, to a cell, you are God consciousness, pretty much. So my cell service to self, it isn't bad, and it doesn't harm anybody else. The self it's serving is me as myself. And so it's the opposite role of the Torito outside of us, which I talked about, which is the divine masculine kind of energy. It's the external energy out there. And that, on the organic model, is a positive flowing system because it's outwardly offering positive up here. And in our inner system, and when we're talking about here in the magnetic core, we have a negative at the top, a drawing in and a pushing out that happens with the internal systems, that keeps all the internal systems running smoothly, and keeps them motivated to do good service for yourself in there, and to be your highest good for yourself. And so it draws in towards the heart, and it fills the heart, and it passes through the heart down to the internal, through all your internal workings, and it lights up that eternal flame of sovereignty, and then it pushes out down the bottom and comes around through all of your systems and all of your internal things and all of you, all the space within you. It travels through, and then it comes back into the heart, and it recircles around and it refuels. And the inner core, in case you missed video 2, I just want to give a quick understanding about this. The upright organic way of the inner core, to have this negative here and the positive at the bottom, this working is sort of the determining factor of the other functions. They really all rely on each other, and I don't want to say anyone is any more important than the other, but the internal core is rooted in the truth, basically. It's sort of like the placeholder that holds the battery in place. And you know, one side has a little spring and one side has a flat side. You know, there's a pretty obvious way that you put the battery in for it to work. The inner core is kind of like that. And basically, it holds a charge for you. It holds your charge, and that charge fuels your external toroidal. And your organic battery can only be really charged and recharged and hold a charge correctly if it's inserted in the slot the right way. And if you're aligning with your truth, if you know your battery is unlimited, if you know your battery is eternal, if it comes from God's source from before, if it's untouchable, if it came in with you and it goes out with you, you know, if you align with the real truth, which is that your soul is eternal, that's what holds that battery in the right place. If you don't align with that truth for whatever reasons, and there's, you know, infinite reasons that we lie to ourselves about this truth, or that we choose to avoid it or discard it or even hate it. If you're doing that, when you do that, it basically flops that battery, you know, around. And what happens in the internal workings is that you're working against yourself now. Instead of refueling with the negative alignment in the internal core, instead of being able to be your own refueler and recharge your internal systems, you're pushing inside. Basically, it's a positive push out. It's a forcing that happens internally. You're pushing out and seeking around in your body for things that you need to fill it up, to fill that heart up, and to fill up and basically fuel the flame. Because what happens in the heart with a negative alignment is it becomes inverted and caged. And basically we put a cover over it. There's like this reflective boundary in the heart. And all the inner workings avoid it. They avoid the heart center. And they sort of recircuit your workings, your energetic workings, to dodge around it as best and as possible as they can. There's lots of lies that we tell ourselves about why we're doing this, and a lot of it has to do with survival, or, you know, saving ourselves some kind of pain or something that we do that for. But really, you're just covering a wound and allowing it to fester and rot under there. It's really not a good idea. But we do it for many reasons, and sometimes it's a habitual sort of programming thing that happens that we have to look at. So that's what this inner core work really gets at, and really starts to want you to look at, is where your truth is, and if you align with it. Where's your heart, and do you avoid it or acknowledge it? Where's your worth? Do you sense it? Or is it when you sense it, is it full? Is it abundant? Or do you feel lack? Do you feel worthless? Not good enough? Those are the questions of the focus of the inner core. That is the work at hand for this type of spiritual, energetic alchemy. This is shadow work. This is the internal, feminine, deep roots of workings. This is the quiet time going into the depths to hold the hand of a chronically ill or hospice kind of situation. You know, this is going in for service of the shadow, and it requires compassion. It requires a strong anchoring to your own knowing of truth, and of light and love, and it requires courage. So this is why I promote, and I've seen and hear and I really feel that the external mortal readal working can be a little bit more beneficial at first for people, especially people who have a lot of distortions happening within the inner core. Because sometimes the inner core work can be overwhelming for people. It can be too much. So please be mindful of where you're at. Be loving to yourself. If it's something that's beyond your capacity right now, don't over stress yourself trying to do things, you know. If you feel like a kindergartner thrown in calculus class right now, just back out. There's tons of kindergarten level workings to do, and that's beautiful. Do what you're ready to do, you know. But for those of us who are prepared and who want to dive in, this is what the work is. And so just like I did in the first kind of homework assignment, I had a big preamble up. Here's my preamble. I will put a marker, a time stamp around this time for anybody who wants to come back to this working to sort of touch base with the instructions. And just like I said in the first, but in case you've missed it, this is not an end-all be-all. You have to follow every single one. You better memorize it or it's not going to work for you. It's nothing like that. And in fact, if things don't resonate right now with you, leave them and just grab those couple that work for you right now and go with those. Take low-hanging fruit. You don't have to rush into any of this. And in fact, the thing that is more important is small consistency. It's those little it's those little hygienic routines that the upkeep over time that really, really makes a big difference and really gets the work going. And also, just to know that this is a balancing work. So it's important to do the inner core work and the torrital, and then bounce back and forth, and to do the third part, which we'll get into after about the flow and the communication between them. But this isn't like a one and done thing. This is something that we should be doing all the time, a couple times a week, or once a week, or a couple times a month, whatever you feel is needed for you. And also, like I said at the beginning of the other video, right? We come into these things with the knowledge that change is the only constant. And that just because something appears this way right now doesn't mean it's that way forever. Just because we're assessing and acknowledging and we're adding a data point that says this is like this right now, it doesn't nail it in. It doesn't chain you to that and say you have to be that forever. And in fact, it's offered up in the hopes and the potentiality that it does change and it is freely able to be itself, and no strings attached, no preconceptions to bog it down. So get in that space with yourself, especially if you haven't done the workings for part one with the torrital. Definitely, come into this practice at this sovereign space, this foundation, And so, for this inner core sensing, I personally feel a more of a silent meditation is the best place to start at, and each time to allow yourself to get into a grounded space of silence first and foremost, and to bring your conscious awareness out of the mind, the boss up here in the mind, and bring it down into the heart center. For the torrital exercise, we pulled out of the physical body a bit to see ourselves from the external and to really kind of detach from the emotions and detach from... Oh, of course. clicker, the TV. Um, we pulled out of the body a bit or the mind, I'll say, to detach a bit from the emotions and detach a bit from the inner workings and everything, to really just feel the sensations, feel the external aura around us, feel the toroidal and the energies of us. For the inner core workings, instead, when we get centered and we drop into the heart center, what we want to do is dive deeper within, to get into that heart center boss, that energy center, smaller consciousness, and to allow that to speak with the body's intelligence, and see where your truths are at. There's two different types of this sort of inner core working, and first and foremost, just like we observe with the Taurus and that toroidal masculine energy, it can be very helpful to have that approach at first with this, just sensing where your truths are at, sensing where your lies are at, not doing a lot of digging around, but just getting a feel and taking assessments for them and feeling what feels true and right to you and what doesn't. Especially if this sort of one truth, alignment, service to others, service to self kind of things are all brand new to you. You have to really take time to do exploring in that sense before you want to start doing healing work for shadow. So yeah, spending time to learn those and hear your heart and understand and what it sounds like, whether it's muffled and caged, whether it's crippled, whether it's really loud, whether it's excited, feeling those inner workings and feeling the connection between your heart and your truth. Do they feel connected? Do you speak your truth? Do you honor yourself? Or is there a lot of distortion happening there? And not to, just to see what's happening, just to observe. This inner work can be it can be multi-leveled, and it's so unique and individual to each of us that this is why I hate to even or not hate. This is why I struggle to try to describe this kind of stuff, really, because it's ever changing, I guess. But the first part is, to get in there and to sense it and to just see it. Then, when you've got a feel for it, same approach, low-hanging fruit, most obvious things that are irking you, most obvious shadow pieces, most obvious lies you tell yourself. One at a time, a half a lie at a time, whatever kind of things that you feel necessary, is start with the easy things of untangling the lie that is most obvious to you. And as you untangle it, infuse it with your truth. Remind it that you love yourself. You forgive it for being disillusioned, or you forgive it for seeing it the wrong way. Or as it's coming apart, it'll tell you kind of how it got bent up. And you can heal it. You can just say, I see you for what you are, and that's okay that you're that way. And just leave it for a while. And you'll notice, like, the crumples that seem really tight up, like rat's nests like this, as you see them, like, they'll open up a little bit more. And then one string will be, like, kind of obvious. And you'll be able to break that little string away and have conversation with that and figure out how it got its tangles. And once it knows that you're offering truth to it, once it knows you're listening honestly to it, it will speak when it's ready to tell you, I needed this. I really need this. Can you help this way? And as soon as it does that, and then you follow through with the support, you're healing yourself. Even little tiny discrepancies, you can heal them. And that's the little bits of work that gets momentum going. Hashing out these little distortions as you go along is like doing little curls every day. And before you know it, instead of 5 curls and your arm is burning, you're doing 10 until your arm is burning. And then, before you know it, you've got great arms and you're moving on to whole different other kinds of sets and working different muscles and stuff, you know? Um, Healing our shadows, healing our inner work is just like that. Um, so yeah, take it slow. Don't be your own guide. You have to be your own guide. That's why I'm offering slight stepping points or stepping stones, and I will do it. I will do a guided deep meditation for people who are interested in that. Real walkthrough, but my hope is to really inspire people to be able to hear the work and just know it and do it, because that's all you need to do is to say to yourself, I want real truth for myself. I want real clarity. And then you're going to be disrupted with some BS. Some kind of lie, some discrepancy will come up. And then, but you've made the choice, you have the will, and to confront it as it is. And by doing that work, you learn a little lesson. You exercise that little muscle, and that's all that needs to be done, because then another one will come up, and you'll learn that little angle of working, and you'll get that little lesson, and that little muscle will get a little stronger, and that leads to the next one and to the next one. So be fair with yourself and be kind to yourself is really the foundation of all the work with this inner core, sensing it and feeling it. So yeah, just to rehash here and to give, I kind of did it a different way than I did it in the first video. But it's harder to explain, and it's harder to do a walkthrough, because each walk is going to be different for you and for me. And every time I do it, it is different. But the basic steps of it are, you know, getting into a meditative, grounded state, feeling yourself, quieting all the frenetic mind thoughts that are happening, the to-dos, you know, allowing those to kind of hit the pause button in your mind, go on break, and travel down into the heart. When you travel down into the heart, create a heart center for yourself. I highly suggest other videos that I've done on building the heart center and what that means. But just think of it as a throne room or a beautiful castle or cathedral. You know, you could see it however you want. I like to see stained glass windows, greenish golden color. That's the classic color of the heart center. And build up that visualization. Feel a warm welcome for yourself here in the heart center. You know, anchor into your self-worth and your sovereignty. See your eternal flame on the hearth, like glowing bright. And get into that love for yourself. If you're really struggling with that, then you already know where your first working is at. If that is a bunch of hoopla to you, if that sounds like a bunch of shit, you already know where your work is at. And perhaps when you try to get down there, it's a locked door, you can't even get into your heart center. Or maybe you get into your heart center and it looks like a tomb, or it looks like really dirty, or there's cobwebs everywhere to you, or it's dark and you can't even find a light switch in there. It's just blackness behind your eyes, and, you know, that's the first key to first door. Relax, sit in darkness until something comes. Allow that space for imagination to actually exercise and be heard, because so many of us have been put a manhole cover over our heart, locked that door, and then with the imagination, we totally lock that out as well. We totally mock that and say it's not real, say it's childish, say it's immature, it's have zero value even, and we really lock the attic door to the imagination space. So maybe you need to just spend some time learning those and building up those in your imagination for a while. And maybe that's where the direct inner work is at. And if it is, then take time to do that. That's super fun work. It's very exciting for first steps, and it's a lot of fun, you know, once you allow yourself to have fun again. But maybe you need to sit and break your chains away to even allow yourself a potential to have fun and love yourself. That could be the first steps even. First steps even further back than that. Why do I feel like I'm not eternal? Why would I feel like I'm not worthy of this beautiful gift of whatever this magic is to be alive? Why would I want to dim my light? Why would I want to bash my own heart in? Why do I want to hurt myself? Why do I want to lie about things? Or skirt around, or exaggerate, or ignore? Those can be the first couple of things that it can be very uncomfortable to even try to have those conversations with yourself, you know? So if that is where you're at with blockading, you know, take it at slowly as you are there. But if you are able to get down into the heart center and you have a palace here, or even if it's a little wonky, even if it's got some work to do, it doesn't matter. You know, you can get down in there and see it for what it is. Do some working, do some clearing and cleansing. If you're at a place where you feel pretty good about it, you feel kind of open and secure in your heart center, then you can start to sense where the flow is at. Then you can really start to breathe more clarity into the heart center and work with those other sort of not so obvious distortions that start to come in when we have more clarity and when we do more energy alchemy work. And if you're at that kind of level and you feel like pretty good with the flow, I would say to, after you get connected into the heart center and you can really feel and ignite that eternal flame, work to feel that flame igniting the ego in a nice way, and know that the beautiful flame of the ego can never overshadow or overcast the beautiful glow from the heart center. The heart center is much larger, and then we have the flame underneath it glowing, you know, cascading its light up out. You know, think of an old-fashioned oil lamp, kind of, where you have the beautiful shade over it, and that's the heart center. See it even as green, and that the light pours out of the shade, but the flame of the oil light underneath it is kind of what adds to that. And that's like your eternal flame that sits in sort of your egoic solar plexus. But when we stroke it the right way, when we ignite it with organic nutrients from the external that have been absorbed up into the root already, they've been cleansed and cleared and come in the correct way to work with. You can ignite down the solar, you know, through the solar plexus into the sacral chakra. You feel your passions ignited. You feel all those things you're meant to do, all the people that you love, and that melts and morphs into the root chakra, where you can bring it to love for humanity, love for your family role, love for your role in the whole of society, and for your ancestors and lineage, and the whole circle of life here on Mother Earth, and humanity's role in that. And that pushes the power out through your whole body. It pushes energy that fuels all your internal processes. In this inner core work, you will be able to see that pushing out from the inner core at the bottom sends light, love, energy, and nutrients. It gives it the flow for all of them to pass through all those internal organ systems that they need to. It fuels the respiratory system. It fuels the nerves. It fuels all the interactions of all the cells that are passing and doing work. And as this inner core work is coming around the external of its torus, and the external body of its sacred boundary torus is your whole vessel. So it's traveling around your whole vessel. It's collecting up all the debris. It's collecting up all the CO2, all of those other waste products or other things that need to be passed around, right? That need to go in other places. Oh, I'm going to lose my computer is dying battery. Oh no. It's collecting all those throughout your whole inner system of you and bringing them back into the heart, bringing them back into the lungs, bringing the used up or full blood cells back through so that they can do what they need to do. And also the energy, the appreciation and love inside of you from all your cells that love the Creator, that love you, that are passing on their love, that's coming into your heart, directly back into your heart center and directly inside of you and creating this great internal self-sustaining flow that will keep you powered, because that inner powered battery fuels the outer torpedo. It's when we don't align with that we get a lot of distortions, but you'll be able to sense those distortions as well when you do the work more and when you have more clarity within the heart center. You might feel inside of your body, some input that you get back from this internal core, that there's some blockages, some disruptions, some hoarding of energy or even toxins and stuff, and there'll be plenty of work to get into there that you'll be led to through that working. And so that's where I'm going to leave this for now. Thank you so much for joining me for this sort of level 2, part 2 homework assignment for that inner magnetic core. Please leave comments, send me emails if you'd like. I'd love to hear more. And I hope that you'll tune in for this part 3 video where we'll talk more about the communication between the two. In the meantime, definitely work these practices on your own and try to do a little bit of comparative work between the inner core and that outer torpedo. So thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.